the teaching is and the education is, and how we can improve it and make it better and more effective for you guys. So before I start, I'm going to see if we can get the room quiet enough to hear the trickle of my fountain. How many people could hear it? Wow. Okay. So not only did I bring it in to kind of be a symbol of what we're going to talk about today, but it's also a little exercise for you to see how still and how quiet you can, even the background noises, because there were background noises that were happening, but you were able, for those of you even in the back, to be able to hear that was the ability to silence the noise from outside, even the smallest of noises, to be able to hear the trickle of the water. So why is that important? It's important because we're talking about stress today. We're still in the middle of the heart series, and a very important component of heart disease and understanding heart disease and heart health is stress. Because 95% of all chronic diseases comes from stress. So even the word stress makes you stressed. Like it just, all of a sudden, you feel your heart rate going up and your blood pressure go up. But it is something that we need to pay attention to because it is, like we talked about last week, we talked all about inflammation and how inflammation is directly related to all the risks that make you high risk for heart health. Any issues with heart health, whether it's arterial sclerosis or high cholesterol or diabetes, these are all as a result of inflammation. And inflammation, one of the causes of inflammation is stress. So it's really, really important that we look at this and pay attention to this. So we talked about last week a little bit about some of the foods that cause this stress. Can somebody give me a couple of examples of some foods that might provide stress on your body? Linda.
Some processed foods, wheat, bread.
Bread. Mm-hmm.
And all those inflammatory things, highly processed.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Yes, Sue. Sugar is a big one. Sugar is a big one.
Salt?
It's highly refined. Salt, refined salt, yes. Refined salt. So table salt, we do that. Inflammatory. Sugar. How about fats, oils?
Some good, some bad.
Okay, give me some examples of good fats.
Avocado,
Mm-hmm.
coconut oil,
Mm-hmm.
cheeses, but they have a little bit of fat in them.
They do,
Some
but you
fat.
have to be careful of that fat, depending on where the cheese comes from.
Flax, almond butter.
Flax, almond butter, good. Chia seeds, these are all foods and omega-3s, which are really, really good for your brain. So people that are experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's, or memory loss, usually their doctors will prescribe fish oil or omega-3. So it's really, really good because it goes over the blood-brain barrier. So it's really, really good for our brains. So, so what would be some inflammatory fats?
Trans fats.
Trans fats. Where would you find trans fats or hydrogenated oils?
A lot of processed food.
A lot of processed foods, crackers, cookies, peanut butter. Yeah, that's a big one, peanut butter. Okay, so you got to read the label. Okay, so good. So you're understanding now how our bodies can respond to stress just by what we eat. But we're going to talk a little bit today about the mind and about our thoughts and how powerful our thoughts are, and what happens in our bodies when we have negative thoughts and when we have positive thoughts. Because this is not just some hairy-fairy, kind of, see, she's happy. Talk about, how your thoughts manifest your actions, or your thoughts manifest your dreams, or things like that. There's research, and there's a lot of research that does show the power of your thoughts. And the first thing that you want to do is be aware of your thoughts. So we think we'll have 60,000 thoughts in a day. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of thoughts. So a thought is a perception. It's how you perceive something. So you may see something like this little girl here, and I look at her, and you automatically have a thought about her. So it's how I perceive her. It's how you perceive her. And it could be either positive or it could be negative. It could be, oh my gosh, she's so cute and she's laughing and she's full of love. Or it could be that she's making, it could be a negative thought, she's making noise, she's disturbing, da-da-da. So the difference between those thoughts is so powerful to your body and what happens in your body. Because let's just say you saw this little girl and you all of a sudden had a negative thought about it. Let's just say, oh, she's running and she's loud and she's disturbing the class. Not that she is. Not that she is. I love her. I love that she's here. But I'm just pointing this out because this could be a thought. So what happens in your body? Get a little anxious? Your heart rate might increase a little bit. Your blood pressure might go up a little bit. You may be feeling those feelings, and then you get a little, fidgety. So these are all physiological responses to just a perception, to just a thought. Or you can look at this little girl and say, oh my gosh, she's so full of love. And look at her beautiful eyes, and she's looking at me right now, and she's so full of love. And you can just be filled with a warm feeling and this feeling of love. So what is very interesting, and I'm going to just tell you what happens in our bodies. I talked about it a little bit last week. But when we have a negative thought, the same thing happens physiologically in our body as if we were faced with a serious threat. So let's just say Mikey comes in the door. He's got a hat on, I don't know who he is, and I think he's going to come and rob us. Okay? That's my perception right there. What happens? What happens right away? My heart beats, my blood pressure raises, my blood sugar raises, because I'm all about ready to go run away. Because I think, my thought is that he's going to hurt me. Or he can walk in the door and I see, oh, we have a new participant, making believe I don't know him. Oh, we have a new participant, come in, welcome. Oh, it's so nice to see a new face. And all of a sudden, I don't have any sort of stress hormones going on. So what had happened when I saw him at first is my body released a lot of adrenaline and cortisol. And these are hormones that, it's amazing, that's great. These are hormones that our bodies are designed to protect us. So it's to protect, because if he was going to harm us, I was going to be able to run away, because all the blood rushed down to my legs and my arms, and I was ready to either fight or flight. So, but the same thing happens with just a thought. Your body does not know the difference between whether he was going to harm me or whether I perceived he was going to harm me. So again, when the cortisol, if I looked at this little girl, what is her name? Willow, thank you. If I looked at Willow and I had a negative thought, I would have released cortisol. My blood pressure would have gone up, my heart rate would have gone up, all the same things, just from looking at a little girl, would have happened as if I saw Mikey and he was going to chase me down. Our bodies respond the same exact way. That's a huge, everybody should be having an aha moment on that one. Because when we think 60,000 thoughts a day, you better be knowing how many of those thoughts are positive or negative. Because if there's a lot of negative thoughts, you've got a lot of cortisol running through your body, and you've got a lot of stress going on in your body. This is what's known as chronic stress. This is what causes people to have heart attacks. This is what causes people to have heart disease. This is what causes people to have inflammation. This is what causes people to have all the inflammatory diseases out there, because we're in a state of inflammation, which is a result of our beautiful bodies just doing what they know what to do. So our genes haven't changed. But the good news is that we have the power to change the expression of those genes. It's called epigenetics. And we can do it by making choices of what we eat and by getting control of our thought processes and our emotional health. So, yes.
I just want to add to that. My daughter always says positive thoughts bring positive actions, bring positive outcomes.
That's a great segue
And
to
she
what
does
I'm
a
going to
little
do.
arrow.
Yep.
Because one day I was talking to her about something, and she was like, Mom, positive thoughts bring positive actions, bring positive outcomes. And that's what she says about peace, too. She has a little thing about peace.
Yep,
I forgot what she says, but it's something with elevation or something.
that's great. She's absolutely right. And we're going to, thank you for that segue, because that's what we're going to talk about next. And how the pathway goes from, and we think 60,000 thoughts a day, so there are things that we're not even aware of that we're thinking. But we're going to do a little exercise here to show. All right, so I'm going to ask you, I want a little participation here about some of the negative thoughts. So usually when you think about negative thoughts, it's the words I, or directed to somebody else, she, he, it. So I. And a lot of the negative thoughts come, and these are also patterns of thinking that are of worth. So I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I can't do that. Those are all negative programs that play in our head, sometimes that we don't even know. So can somebody give me an example? Give me one, like give me a negative. Give me a negative.
I don't like you.
Okay, I don't like you. What kind of emotion do you have? What kind of emotion would that give you?
Get on my nerves.
Anger? Would you say anger?
Irritated.
What?
Aggravation.
Irritated. Because everything.
Okay, that's going to be the action. What happens into your body? That's actually what happens when you're angry.
Hypersensitive. I don't know.
Hypersensitive is also an action. Emotion, what are you feeling? So anger, resentment maybe? Could you feel resentment?
Yeah.
Fear.
Fear, that's a good one.
Jealousy.
Jealousy. All right, so what do you think's happening in your body right now? Because what happens right here, after you go from here to here, your emotion, your anger, your resentment, your fear, your jealousy, what's going on in your body?
Anxiety.
Ulcers, that's a good one. Yeah, ulcers is a good one. You're starting to what? Release cortisol and adrenaline. You're starting the fight or flight right now because it's turned into an emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. Emotion. Okay? So you've got all this going on. You're releasing cortisol and adrenaline. Your blood pressure's going up. Your blood sugar's going up. Your digestion slows down. What else happens? Palms get sweaty.
Might even have churning of the stomach.
Churning of the stomach.
Immune
Okay.
system is decreased.
Oh, good, thank you. Your immune system is suppressed. I forgot all about that. That's a big one. Your immune system gets suppressed.
You sort of get.
Again, because your body is preparing for either to like stay and wait, like, you know, think about it in the caveman days, you know, like either if there was a threat out there, they didn't know whether they were going to hunker down for like a week or whatever, or they were going to have to run. And that's also why, and what cortisol does is it makes your body store fat. Especially around the belly. You've got the most cortisol receptors in your belly. That's why when you're highly stressed, you may get a pouch. This is called a cortisol belly. And again, it's not your body's fault. Don't beat your body up and don't beat yourself up. Okay? It's your body's natural response to stress. But you can do something about it. Okay? That's a good one. All right, so you're feeling anxious and or anger, resentment, fear, jealousy. And then what happens? So you're starting to, you know, maybe you're going to...
Keel over and have a heart attack.
You could have a heart attack.
Throw up.
You could throw up.
What about an anxiety attack?
An anxiety attack. Okay, what else might you do? You might eat more. When people are stressed and you're angry or something, don't you eat more? And what kind of foods do you go for?
Crunchy.
Crunchy junk, the comfort. Why? Because you want to comfort yourself. You're like, oh, I want it to go away.
White Castle.
Okay, so same thing here then. Can you see the pathway? What happens? So just by a thought, I don't like her. I don't like that person. How about an I statement? Like I am mad. I am not good enough. And what kind of emotion does that bring?
Depression.
Sadness.
Well, it brings sadness, which leads to
Depression.
So that's the end result here. And it's sadness. Loneliness,
Lack of self-confidence.
isolation would be over here. Sometimes anger too. Yeah, sometimes anger too. So again, these are all, and even though you're not angry and you think like, well, if I'm angry, I can see my blood pressure increasing and all that. But when you're sad, it does the same thing. Okay, because your body doesn't know the difference. It feels stress. So it's translated into whether you're sad or angry or have fear or anxiety. This is all negative. Okay, so let's turn it around. Let's talk about positive thought.
I like it.
I like you too, Eric.
Oh.
I like you. What kind of feelings, what kind of emotions are going on?
Joy.
Joy, what else?
Good energy.
Smile. Oh, that's body action.
Yep. So you're smiling.
Yeah.
So let's write some words. So joy, happiness,
Elevation.
elevation, and that's a good one.
Well, that's the other one. My daughter said positive peace. Positive energy always creates elevation.
That's a good one here. Positive elevation. Attraction. That would go over here. No, that's an emotion. Okay, so my point is, and guess what happens here? What does our body release? Endorphins and something called interferon. Has anybody heard of interferon? It's what they give cancer patients.
Or hepatitis.
Hepatitis. It is a powerful chemical in your body, interferon. And it's a healing chemical. Okay, and it's turned on when we have these positive emotions. Emotions centered around love and not centered around fear. All right, you got the point, right? I love this. I pulled this diagram up, but I love it. So this is a picture of a calm mind. See it just like there. And this is a picture of an upset mind. And in here, fear, hurt, anger, sadness, guilt, shame, disappointment, frustration, helplessness, hopelessness, humiliation, hate, bitterness, resentment, jealousy, terror, horror, disgust. These are all real familiar words, right? Like, yeah, I feel those during the course of a day. Yeah, I do. So the object, folks, not to beat yourself up because you're having these thoughts. The idea is, okay, I have these thoughts. I do. I'm human. What can I do? What can I do to quiet my mind? What can I do to reduce the cortisol and adrenaline that's surging through my body because I'm feeling, I'm having these thoughts and these beliefs?
Change your mind.
You can change your food, right? You can change what you eat, right? So you can change your thoughts. It's very hard, though. Sometimes when you're in that, right? When you're in that cycle, oh my God, and it is going over and over and over and over again, and you feel like, oh my God, So sometimes, I think I've shared with you at one point this, that I was taught at a very critical, very traumatic time in my life. Where I was highly traumatized and I couldn't get out of the fear. I could not get out of my fear. And so a very wise person, who I call my angel, said to me, all you have to do at that moment when you're in that is to move your finger. And I thought, you're telling me that to heal myself, all I have to do is move my finger? And she said, yes, move your finger. So I did. So every time these thoughts would come up, I would move my finger. All of a sudden, what's happening? I'm focused on my finger. All of a sudden, the thoughts stop. I look at my finger. And then I'm like, what now? Watching my finger. Okay, so then my thoughts are gone. Okay, and sometimes it's that easy. It's a big stop sign that says stop. And sometimes you have to get your body engaged. So that's why, when you do that, it automatically brings your attention because you have to you're moving your finger. Oh, wow, I moved my finger. Oh, look at that, I've got, all of a sudden you're looking at your finger and you're obsessing over your finger. But it's better than the obsessive thoughts that are in your mind. So that's one way. There are also practices like meditation and just quieting the mind. Meditation is just a practice of quieting the mind. So, and some people call it that monkey mind. Has anybody heard that, the monkey mind? I don't quite know why monkey mind. Maybe monkeys have lots of thoughts and they're crazy, or I think monkeys are crazy, so maybe that's why. But it is as the first step is to become aware. It's a huge step. If you can become aware of your thoughts, pat yourself on the back. That is your first step. Making yourself aware. Wow, I just had that thought about Willow, or I just had that thought about Faith. And then try to stop it. And there are many modalities. So we talked about energy and emotion, energy and motion. So there are a lot of modalities out there as far as, helping, whether it's meditation and letting the thoughts come up and go through and let them pass. Because the one thing you do not want to do is stop and keep dormant all your emotions, like your anger. If you have anger from resentment that's deep-seated from, not forgiving somebody, that is as simple as forgiving somebody. That's letting the energy go. So a lot of energy work. So there's things like tapping. Has anybody heard of tapping? Right, it's called EFT, or tapping. And what it does is it taps on these energy points through your body, and as you're doing it, you're doing a mantra. So you're allowing yourself to feel, say the things, and acknowledge what the feeling is, and then through doing this tapping, you're letting it go. And it actually, the stories of success out there are amazing. We have somebody, I'm trying to get her here to do an introduction to the class, and you can do tapping on your own, but it's phenomenal what people have reversed disease from it. They've lost lots of weight, they've forgiven the unforgivable, all through doing this process of tapping. So the point is that there is energy work that's done for us, because we have had a lifelong of developing these thought processes and these patterns. And what I want you to do and know today is don't beat yourself up from it. These are all ways that you've learned how to cope through your life. of situations. But the news is, first, is that it will harm your body. If over time you do not let this stuff go. These negative thoughts, the resentment, the unforgiveness, all these negative thoughts that are in your body will cause disease. Dis-ease. Let's look at that word. It's dis-ease. Your body should be always at a constant state of ease. But when your body is at dis-ease, it's because something is blocked. And usually, it's energy. And usually the energy comes from emotion, which comes from a thought. So your thoughts are very, very powerful. So what I've done for you is, because I've got to start making something really good, is I've given you a couple of handouts to kind of help you navigate through this. Like what are some things that I could do? Like this fountain, for example, is something that if you just stop, like let's just say you're having a stressful day, like someday the baby's crying and you've got this and that and I got to do this and you know the bills are late and all of a sudden, it's just to stop. Remember, stop. And then bring something positive in. So I brought these flowers too, because I think they're pretty and they're colorful. And I wanted to bring beauty in. I can't go out right now. That's a great way. Go out in nature.
Yeah, I bought one of them at a yard sale.
These, oh, they're fabulous.
They had one round on Craigmont.
You go back and get one, Betty.
No, I bought it.
You bought it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Does it work? Does it work? 75?
Oh, $5.
$5
for
Oh,
the
that's
one I
good.
bought running at the yard sale.
Want to sell it?
They was having a nice yard sale.
So we have, that's awesome.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
That's setting.
Yeah, I've been wanting one
Yeah.
for a long time.
So the idea, you okay, Willow?
Right?
So the idea of this is to stop your thoughts and to pay attention to something that's soothing and beautiful. And then your mind is taken up with this, look at the water that's flowing, this is so beautiful, and oh, and if I close my eyes, I can think about, I mean, it's amazing what you think about when you listen to that. It's amazing the places you go, like Brazil and the waterfalls, and I mean, it's like amazing. Anyway, but that's the beauty of our mind. As powerful as they are, that can hurt us, they're as powerful to heal us. And that is so important to know. There is such a power in positive thinking. I know so many people that have reversed diseases through the power of positive thinking. So again, I'll give an example of Eli Wiesel, who was the Holocaust victim. Eli, and he wrote a book. Eli, I knew you would know. Eli. Okay, so when he was interviewed, and they said, how did you survive? How everybody was dying around you. How did you survive? And he said, I always thought positively. When they were giving me fish head soup, because that's what they fed him, like once every 3 days. They gave him a head of a fish, and they threw it at him. He looked at that fish head and he thought how wonderful and beautiful that meal was, and how when eating that fish it was going to keep him healthy and it was going to keep him well. And that people were dying of starvation around him, eating the same amount, but he survived and he was healthy because, and he says that because that's what he thought. He kept thinking that over and over and over again. So, and again, he kept himself, he didn't have much cortisol. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the stress of that situation? So, Nelson Mandela is another one, in prison for 26 years. Yet he gets out of prison and he becomes one of the greatest, beacons of love and light. And it was because he says in prison, he let go. He forgave everybody that prosecuted him and was against him, and he let it all go. And he used it for his good. So when he got out, he was spreading peace and all that, peace and love. So again, the other thing I handed to you, because it's so important, I'm going to end with this and then start cooking. I'm making chocolate mousse. A really healthy chocolate mousse. With food that it's high in magnesium, and it releases really good hormones in our bodies, feel-good hormones, dark chocolate. So I'm going to make a dark chocolate mousse, and avocados, which are high in omega-3, which are good for our brains. So this is a nice stress-free treat for you. If you have, I'm also making it with dates, not sugar, which is low on the glycemic index. All right, so the other handout that I want you, I hope you can take home and read at your leisure, whatever, is how to love yourself unconditionally. It's one of the hardest things to do in our life, is to love ourselves. And that's not your fault, and it's not your parents' fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just, I think this is in all of our journeys in this life, is to realize that that is the most important job, or important thing that we do in this lifetime, is to love ourselves. Because if we don't, we cannot love others. We try and we do, but not to the full extent that we're meant to. It's amazing what could happen when we love ourselves. So here are just some things to look at when you're, it's hard for a lot of people. So, like, believe in yourself, know that you are worthy of having the kind of life you've always wanted. There is power also in dreaming and your imagination. Okay, so anyway, this is all heady stuff. Get it? But no, getting back to the heart, because how many have you felt a broken heart? How many of you have had a longing, and you can feel it in your heart? How many of you, when you've had rage, you feel like your heart's going to burst? It affects the heart. All these emotions affect your heart. Okay? So anyway, that's how I tied it in. I have lots of materials here that will help you to kind of take it. And again, this is a process, folks. This is a process. I work on stress every day. Every day. It is something that we are all faced with stress. We are all faced with these negative thoughts. It's what are we going to do about it? Because how do we want to live our lives? We want to live a magnificent, wonderful, happy lives because you all deserve it. Okay, so real quickly on the mousse, I'm going to make it while you guys are going in, but a couple of key ingredients. So the dates, I've soaked in hot water. I've only soaked them for about an hour. So what happens is the hot water breaks down the dates and it becomes a paste. So I'm just going to make this into a nice paste. This is going to become my sweetener in my mousse. I'm also going to add a little bit of pure maple syrup. I'm going to add avocados. They're high in omega-3s, like I said, healthy fat, and also have magnesium and potassium in them, which are very good for the brain. I'm going to add dark cocoa, a little bit of vanilla, and then I'm going to whip it up in my blender. And I'm going to put in, even though the recipe says water, I'm going to add in a little bit of almond milk, because almonds also are very, very good source of omega-3. Okay, so I'm just going to, you can do water, you can do coconut milk or almond milk, same thing. Anybody that, I know you all have a lot of questions, I just want to respect everybody's time going through the line. If there's anybody that wants to make a comment, do you want to make a comment or ask me a question?
I do want to make a comment.
Make a comment.
What people have found over years of this is all wonderful, work from the moment, everything that you said. Eventually you have to take that positive energy and ask for the first incident where that happened. If you actually want to clear yourself and not have a trauma, you have to love your child because you have triggers. And if you don't undo that trigger and reprogram your child, you're just going to keep dealing with stress.
Right.
Right.
So
So you made a very good point. So the pattern thinking that I was telling you about and the programs that go on, it comes from some source within you. And usually it happens and it changes and it shifts sometime in your childhood. So when you go back, and this is done through energy work, and this is done through, there's different modalities. Tapping is one of them, like I said. You go back to the child because the child, just looking at Willow too, there's the child that is completely innocent and is pure and it doesn't have all these crazy thoughts that we develop through life. So to go back into that, and that's what I believe what Tom's point is making, is going back to that time, and it's different for everybody. And maybe there is, or there are people that don't have that time, but usually everybody does. And it's what causes these triggers, which trigger some of these bad thoughts. But even a step to take is to start taking awareness, being aware of where this is coming from, identifying what they are. Journaling is a really good exercise to get some of this stuff out. If it keeps swirling in your brain, that's where the cycle happens too. So it's a very good point, Tom. And again, we're going to try to bring in some people to like even explore some of that. Hopefully we can get somebody to talk a little bit about tapping. You can, if anybody has experience with anything else, next week we're going to be talking about yoga and the benefits of yoga. And yoga is great energy work that helps your body and your thoughts. So thank you for that, Tom. Yes.
Notice this week, WLS TV was giving back to the community by buying their breakfast or their lunch or their groceries and this and that. At the end of the week, they had a really neat experience where some lady was going through PetSmart and she heard about this man was talking about how he was buying cat food for like 16 feral cats or something crazy like that. And then she ended up paying for the cat food for the man, and then went through the line buying her own stuff, and then went over to Target, and they were going to buy her stuff at Target, and they found out about how she had paid for the guy at PetSmart, and so they went back and interviewed the cashier there, and he was like, I just can't believe she did that. And then you ended up buying her, you know, almost immediately after she did that good deed, buying her food and so forth at Target. So anyway, it's contagious. If you do good things for your neighbors,
Pay it forward,
and
act
Bounty
with
and
kindness.
Soul is doing it for us, so we should share with our neighbors and let them know.
That's an awesome thing. Practice that. Yes. What's that? Music is very calming. Exactly. Music is something too that can take you places. So it could take you to a place of like calmness. It could take you to a place of joy. It could take you to a place of sadness even. But even in that sadness is you're just feeling it. You're feeling it. It's okay to feel it. So thank you. Music is a great one. All right, guys. Yes, one more.
One question
Yeah.
about almond milk.
Yes.
I had some in my fridge that I guess I let set too long and it started to curdle. And I'm wondering, I mean, I worry about that with, I mean, I did toss it, but it occurred to me maybe I shouldn't be that concerned because how bad can nut milk be?
Curdle?
Yeah, is that, it's not like dairy, but.
Well, I mean, fermented, there's a process in the level of bacteria and everything, like even with kefir, which is fermented, there's all a process with fermentation, but if something goes bad and spoils in your refrigerator and I wouldn't
trust it, but I'm just wondering, yeah.
I mean, it got you thinking is what happened.
Yeah.
Got you thinking to...
I just don't think of nuts as something that would.
Oh, nuts nuts go rancid. Nuts go rancid.
I know oil. Yeah,
Oils go, that's why oils go rancid too. Yep. Walnut, any of the oils go rancid, but nuts can go rancid as well. Yeah. Okay, guys. All right, thank you so much. I hope you got a little bit of a nugget today. See you next week. Have some.